Premier League is criticised a lot, but they have made a recent promise. Premier League clubs to make changes for disabled fans. This is actually from September 14th, 2015. All Premier League clubs have agreed to improve access for disabled supporters by August 2017. A 2014 BBC investigation found that 17 of England's top flight clubs failed to provide enough wheelchair spaces. At the moment, 15 out of 20 clubs will have to increase capacity to comply with guidelines on accessible stadiums. Earlier on Monday, September 14th, a government report had criticised the inadequate facilities and support for disabled fans at Premier League grounds. Minister for Disabled People Justin Tomlinson MP had said common sense can fix some issues, but accepted other areas will need some work. Frankly, some of it is disgraceful, he told BBC Sport. There isn't provision in some grounds. Supporters are split up or are put in with the away fans. I find that totally unacceptable. We are in the last chance saloon with those football bodies saying you need to get your house in order. We need to get this house addressed. Premier League statement said we are undertaking our own assessment by surveying every Premier League stadium to determine improvements for disabled access. Disability access was discussed at the Premier League shareholders meeting and several new proposals were agreed. So, the report done jointly by the Department for Work and Pensions, DWP, and Department for Culture, Media and Sport recommends planning attendance. Clubs should provide attendance for all groups of disabled people. They should provide information such as stadium distance from local parking and gradient of pavements. Buying a ticket. Clubs should allow disabled spectators to buy tickets online. They should provide wheelchair seating that allows disabled spectators to sit with family and friends. Travelling to and from venue. Clubs should provide up-to-date transport information and overall experience. Matchday and club stewards should be given disability awareness training, while abusive behaviour towards disabled spectators should not be tolerated. And aids and adaptations. Clubs should increase the number of wheelchair user places for stadiums with more than 10,000 seats. In August, a survey carried out by charity Revitalise before the start of the new Premier League season suggested that many clubs are continuing to fail disabled fans. It followed the second reading of the Accessible Sports Grounds Bill in the House of Lords in July, where Lord Holmes of Richmond, Britain's most successful Paralympic swimmer, called on Premier League sponsors and broadcasters to pull out of football unless progress was made in providing facilities for disabled fans. In June, top flight clubs were threatened with legal action after the Equality and Human Rights Commission said it had received a number of complaints, including about Manchester United removing walking aids from away fans. At the time, it said United said it was actively working with its own Disabled Supporters Association and the Premier League to assess areas for potential improvement. Now, you know what? With the millions and billions swirling around in football, it is actually a disgrace. It is legitimately a disgrace that Premier League clubs, at a bare minimum, are not. It's what that at a bare minimum, 17 of England's top flight clubs fail to provide enough wheelchair spaces. That is an absolute disgrace. That Premier League clubs, with all the millions and billions they've got, are failing to do this.
I'm going to jump in on this, but while I get ready to say my 2 cents on it, I will ask you to queue up a relevant piece of media for me as well.
Is that to do with someone who plays in the MLS right now?
Yes, that is.
Who formerly played for Chelsea? Because I am definitely going to get onto that. Because at the end of the day, I mean, Minister for Disabled People Justin Tomlinson has said, frankly, some of it is disgraceful, and you know what, I legitimately do agree with him. And at the end of the day, 15 out of 20 clubs in the Premier League will have to increase capacity to comply with guidelines on accessible stadiums. My thought is, it is legitimately It's legitimately that. It's legitimately that. Because at the end of the day, football is for everyone, not just for the rich, not just for those who are well off. The football is for everyone, from the working man to the wheelchair bound man, from the black man to the white man, from the straight man to the gay man, from men to women to everyone in between. Football is for everybody. And that's not just now, that is for life. It's one of them ones. The fact of the matter is, football is the people's game. It doesn't belong to anyone. It doesn't belong to any one entity. It doesn't belong to any one business. It's the fact of the matter is, it is the people's game. It's a worldwide game, and everybody has a right to view it. Whether it be TV, whether it be in person, whether it be playing it, everybody has a right to view it, and everybody has a divine right and a God-given right to be able to take part in it as well. That's my view on it. And the fact, and I said, the Premier League with its billions, and I cannot stress that enough, with its billions, cannot even provide enough wheelchair spaces in a ground. It legitimately is a disgrace. I'm sorry, but it is a disgrace. I mean, at least the Premier League clubs have agreed to improve access, but it shouldn't have even got to this point in the first place. I mean, football's inclusive, not exclusive, and people need to remember that. These corporate entities need to remember that. The powers that be need to remember that. Everybody needs to remember that. It's inclusive, not exclusive. We all love it, and no one deserves to be segregated from it. Gezzie Fizzle, you want to jump in on this before we throw out the Skypers?
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. We say that the Premier League is the best league in the world, and this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. But how is the Premier League the best league in the world when the people that actually support the Premier League, i.e. the fans, not just the sponsors, but the fans, okay? Because if every single fan that had a ticket did not show up, what would the Premier League be? The stadiums would be empty. In terms of the appeal to have it broadcast on TV, it's like, look, if people weren't going to be interested enough to actually go to see the game in person, no one would actually want to go and watch the game on TV. It's as simple as that. And I think that there's a big part of the footballing community that are otherwise able. I'm not going to say that they're disabled, because I don't believe they are. I actually believe that these members of the footballing community have other amazing abilities. That's my personal belief. Right? So for them to be excluded by, as you say, the majority of the top flight in England, where we say that this is the best league in the world, is absolutely disgraceful. Right, didn't we cover a story, I think it was on Feyenoord, in the Eredivisie, where they'd recently developed a stand, or a section of the stand, for their otherwise able fans.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm saying, can the Premier League, as you said, with their billions and billions, because that's what they have, billions upon billions, not instruct the clubs? And this is where the FA needs to get involved, and that's why I feel that the FA are actually doing sweet FA in regards to their fans. And I'm not talking about sweet female attitude either, by the way. I just want to clear that up. So it's like, look, for me, it's all about, as you say, the football being the world game and that being inclusive, and that means all fans from all walks of life, all abilities, being able to enjoy the beautiful game. And that means that the leagues, the football associations, and the wider governing bodies like FIFA and UEFA, making sure that provisions are made for the fans. Because as I say, without the fans, just in relation to our show, without our dedicated fans, a lot like the guys in the Skype chat tonight, and I want to send an extra special shout out to Big T, and I want to throw them T's up for him as well, because for me, I love that guy. It's as simple as that. I love him, no homo, but I love him. So it's like this, right? Without you guys, there is no show. Okay? So without the fans, there's no football. So it's like, look, we need to make provisions. It's as simple as that. We need to make provisions. And if the Football League, if the FA, if UEFA, if FIFA aren't willing to do that, then I really don't see the point anymore. I really don't. I mean, we have dedicated, otherwise able football leagues. Right? They also play the beautiful game. So my question is this: how is this being inclusive if the people that also play the game aren't actually having provisions made for them to attend matches and watch it? When they're fans of these clubs as well. I mean, come on. Come on. Right? We say that the Premier League is one of the most advanced leagues in the world. Right? If you're really advanced, let's show that. Let's have provisions to allow more fans to actually enjoy watching the sport that they love.
Exactly.
Let's have that. So that's my 2 cents in it. I personally believe that with those billions and billions, the FA, Premier League, UEFA, FIFA, they're not doing enough. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And it's an absolute disgrace that the majority of the top teams in the Premier League, in fact, the majority of the Premier League cannot appropriately accommodate these fans. It's as simple as that.
I mean, it is one of them ones where the fact of the matter is, I mean, I said, as you rightly said, the FA are doing sweet FA, and the Premier League are making this pledge. I just really hope they follow through on it, because there have been a lot of things that the Premier League have promised, but we don't end up seeing it paying dividends. This 200 million to grassroots football or grassroots projects, where does that go? Where does that go? That would be my question. Where the hell does that go? Because personally, I don't see that going anywhere. And there's a lot of people who feel the same way as me. I've had talks with a lot of people who are like, where is this money going? Because amateur league ain't seeing it, semi-pro ain't seeing it. And then there's basically definitions of grassroots football, which is extremely liberal and loose at best. Sometimes I swear that the definition of grassroots football is looser than Jenna Jameson. I swear it. It's one of them was like it's like throwing a banana down the alleyway loose. It's one of them. The way some people just bandy that about and don't even realize what it means as a phrase. It's mad. Right. I mean, are any of the Skypers jumping in on this? Because this is one of them ones where it's just, I mean, it's just insanity. It is just insanity. I mean, Brad Hicks has said in the Skype chat, I sit with my mate who's in a wheelchair. He can barely walk and he gets treated brilliantly at Leicester. So it is one of them ones. Obviously, there are exceptions to the rule, but as we said when we were reading out the story, the majority need to do a lot of work to basically arrest this balance. So it is legitimately just disappointing. It really just is disappointing. So, and Ryan has said, I know people in wheelchairs at Plymouth, and Plymouth always respect it. And it's a case of it is just it is frustrating. I mean, personally, I'm not disabled, but as I said, I feel that football needs to be inclusive. It needs to include everyone. I mean, you look at teams like say Hambro Colts, for instance, Porter's Sockability that Tom Wood has mentioned that he's been a part of before. So it's a case of at grassroots level. Grassroots level is always trying to accommodate people of differing abilities, people of differing genders, and grassroots football on a general basis is where you're seeing the example being set, when really it should be the millions and billions that are at the top. They should be setting the example because they've got a lot more reach, they've got a lot more influence. But then a lot of people don't give a damn about grassroots football, even though it's doing a lot more to help the game than, say, the top level, which for me really boggles the mind. In all honesty, it really boggles the mind, and it frustrates the hell out of me, which is why I wrote a Facebook status a week or so ago about, you know what, my passion really lies with grassroots football. But hey, we got a grassroots segment coming up next anyway. So Ross Vernon, you wanted to jump in before we move on to our next point?
Yeah, because over weekly when I went to the Leeds United game, the first game of the season against Burnley at Ellen Road. I was walking past to get into the stands, and I saw a Leeds fan in a wheelchair going up on pushing the wheels on by themselves. One of the stewards who was stood near where you could go through to put your tickets through took the ticket off of her, put a ticket through the turnstile, and they opened the side doors and she just put herself through there. Some other fans saw the door open, tried to go through, went no, just for her because she can't walk. And when they we come near the cop, and where the cop is, there's a wall where you can go straight out, where the wheelchairs go straight across front to behind netting the cop. And all the time there's fans coming out from other cop sections near that. They always stop, and the people in the wheelchairs come out first and then go. But if they say if the people in the wheelchairs say you can go first, we all walk past first, but majority of the time we all wait and then the wheelchairs go through first before the fans come out after a game. And before games we always let them go into the ground first as well, so we have good access for wheelchair people and some brilliant stuff at Ellen Road as well. Liam, just thought I mentioned that. Yeah,
no, I hear that. I said there are exceptions. There are exceptions to the rule, but it's the general. It's the general facilities that are not brilliant. So it's like that's where the changes need to be made, and people need to be aware that changes need to be made as well. But hopefully the Premier League stick to their word. I really, really hope they do.
And I just think, for the sake of their own credibility, they, like you, I hope that they do. Because at the end of the day, right, as I say, we keep lauding the Premier League for this, for that, and everything else, okay? But if clubs at lower levels can be more facilitating for fans, what does that actually tell you about the clubs in the Premier League? What does that tell you about the Premier League overall? It's just not good enough.
Yeah. Damn right.
It's as simple as that. As I say, we're talking about billions upon billions here. It's not as if we're saying that, the Premier League overall doesn't have money. They've got the money, right? And they say that the best way for money to be earned and so on and so forth is to circulate it. So why not include these fans? Are you really trying to tell me that these fans aren't going to go and pay for those match day experiences? Of course they are. That's where even more money's going to come from. Here's the other thing, from a business perspective, right? And I'll be honest, there's not really that much I know about business, but I know this: if you go and alienate any section of your customer base, that's money that you're missing out on. And right now they are failing to capitalize on this customer base. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, damn right. I mean, it's one of them ones where it's just sad. It's sad that we, as much as we love debate on Pitch Talk, it is actually just sad that we actually have to talk about points like this. It really is, because it's frustrating. It is legitimately frustrating. I mean, me as an quote unquote able-bodied individual, I'm frustrated by this. I can only imagine a disabled fan who can't get to games because of a lack of facilities. I can only imagine how they would feel about this, seeing Premier League making pledges and hoping above hope that they actually live up to them, rather than it just being all talk. I can only imagine that frustration. It's one of them. It's a joke, but it's not even a funny one. It's one of them where it's like it is legitimately frustrating that we actually have to bring up points like this. It shouldn't be this way, and it's very easily rectifiable. This is the thing. This is why I was saying earlier it shouldn't even get to this point, because it's so easily rectifiable. I mean, Brad Hicks has just said that's not going to happen until the FA isn't controlled by a greedy man like Greg Dyke. I mean, that's a different story unto itself, but it disappoints me when you're seeing stuff like this, when you're seeing stuff like corruption in football. Really, really does disappoint me. Disappoints, frustrates in equal measure. And it's like, I don't know. I'm almost at a loss for words on it. But it's one of those. I mean, if anyone else wants to jump in before we move on, let us know. But it's one of them. It is. I don't know, man. I'm almost at a loss for words for this. But the fact of the matter is, just hoping, very much hoping that the Premier League lives up to this. I really do hope that the Premier League lives up to their pledge of improving facilities for disabled fans and supporters. I really hope so, because they're making enough money. So it ain't a money thing. Definitely isn't a financial thing. It's not like they can't afford it. It's not like they're playing in front of it's not like these clubs. It's not like these clubs are playing in front of 20 people and they can't afford to do it because they're struggling to make ends meet and struggling to pay their pitch rent. It's not that. So, what is the reason? It's one of them. Straight Shootin LJA, on behalf of Pitch Talk, would like to invite someone from the FA if they want to answer those questions, and invite someone from the Premier League, such as maybe a Greg Dyke or a Richard Scudamore. One of them ones. Feel free. We'll have you on. We'll give you the floor.